Hi everyone, my name is Becca Rice, and the article I picked was A Positive Evil, the Haitian Revolution and Abolition in the 1834 Tennessee State Constitutional Convention. Eastern Tennessee was home to many Quakers who came from North Carolina due to the availability of land and a small presence of slavery during the end of the 18th century. This religious group provided the main organizational foundation for groups who believed in abolition. Quakers, as well as other citizens believed that slavery was evil. Quakers were one of the main groups who wanted to end slavery. In the month prior to the state convention, it was obvious to many that the delegates from Eastern Tennessee would propose measures on emancipation. The Tennessee Convention needed to figure out what they were going to do about this really big problem. They needed to address slavery. So they created a report on whether or not they should grant freedom to slaves. The Tennessee Convention needed to deal with the biggest problem facing Tennesseans. What are we going to do about slavery? They knew slavery was evil, but they also thought freeing slaves would be more negative. So they called slavery a positive evil. They used some racist argument that it would be better for slaves to remain slaves because enslaved people lived in a more caring environment than free black Americans, who were subjected to constant poverty, plus anger, and bad treatment from white people. So the convention finally agreed they could not abolish slavery. The main two reasons they used were: one, slaves were better off as slaves than as free people, and two, if they were freed, they would attack white people as seen in the Haitian Revolution. The Haitian uprising by slaves was the only successful slave revolt ever to take place in all of history. The people in Tennessee Convention were afraid that since the slaves in Haiti organized together and killed so many white people with extraordinary scenes of destruction and bloody murder, that this was what could happen in Tennessee if they freed their slaves. Even those who were in favor of freeing the slaves could not argue against this Haitian uprising and how that could happen here. In 1803, in perhaps the clearest reaction to the Haitian Revolution, the State Assembly passed an act that made it illegal to discuss any current event or revolutionary topic near enslaved people over the fear it may indicate them to insurrection. The Tennessee State Convention created a report that asked the question: should slaves be granted freedom? They rejected emancipation by saying it would destroy peace and prosperity. Haitian Revolution showed them real evidence as to why they shouldn't end slavery. The committee's report said that if immediate or even gradual emancipation was given to the slaves, it would destroy the stable life of enslaved people and throw hundreds of thousands into degradation. Joseph Kincaid wanted to eliminate the passage using this wording, but at the convention, the motion was sadly soundly defeated 12 to 42. They concluded in the report that slavery would end one day anyway, so why end it early and then have violence? So instead of freedom for slaves, they passed more restrictions for black people. They passed new resolution that stripped black Tennesseans of citizenship and the right to vote. Those who watched the Haitian Revolution and abolition influenced the county delegates to create restrictive acts within the 1834 Constitution, such as restricting the right to bear arms to only white men. The Haitian Revolution was used as the strongest reason not to allow freedom. Even those who wanted to get rid of slavery could not argue against the violence of the Haitian Revolution. The deep-rooted fear was just too scary. Tennessee instead ensured that white people's supremacy over enslaved people was fully protected and secured, which is a very sad statement for white people who could have done the right thing but chose not to.